I had always been the type to trust, to give the people closest to me the benefit of the doubt. My wife, Angela, and I had built our life together on that foundation. We met in college, young and full of dreams. I never once questioned her loyalty. She was my everything, my confidant, my partner, my best friend. But everything I believed in came crashing down when I discovered the affair. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. I had been working late on a project at the firm I was employed at. It was my dream job, one that I'd sacrificed time and energy to secure. I was in my late 20s, ambitious, and focused, and that meant I didn't always have time for Angela the way I should have. I thought that I was doing the right thing by providing for us, for our future. But I never stopped to consider what that might cost me. The first hint came one evening when I arrived home early. I had wrapped up my work earlier than expected and decided to surprise Angela. I walked into the house, expecting to find her curled up on the couch reading or watching TV, but instead, I found her in a heated conversation on the phone. She was speaking in hushed tones, something that immediately set off a red flag in my mind. I didn't say anything that night. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was talking to her mother, or a friend. She was entitled to her privacy, after all. But the next few days, I began noticing more subtle signs. The way she looked at her phone, quickly sliding it away when I entered the room. Her distant demeanor when I tried to make small talk. The once intimate conversations we shared became short and perfunctory. Still, I hesitated to confront her. Doubt, confusion, and fear paralyzed me. I loved Angela, and the thought of her betraying me felt impossible to believe. But my gut told me something was wrong, and I couldn't shake it. The turning point came when I found a message on her phone, a message that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't an accidental text or an innocent exchange. It was a string of intimate messages with someone I knew all too well, Jack. Jack had been my closest college friend, the guy I trusted more than anyone. We had shared everything, our hopes, our fears, our ambitions. We were like brothers. And to discover that he had crossed the line with Angela was a blow I couldn't have imagined. The message was clear: can't wait to see you tonight. We'll pick up right where we left off. I froze. My heart dropped to my stomach. The betrayal wasn't just with a stranger. It was with someone who had been like family to me. How could they both have done this to me? I confronted Angela that night. I didn't yell, didn't accuse her immediately. I showed her the message, my hands trembling as I held the phone in front of her. Her face went pale. For a moment, she said nothing, and then the truth spilled out. Jack and we've been seeing each other for months, Angela admitted. Her voice was soft, almost ashamed, but the damage had been done. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely, and Jack and I reconnected after all these years. I couldn't listen to her excuses. I didn't care why it had happened. The pain of betrayal was all-consuming. Jack, my closest friend, had taken something from me that I could never get back. And Angela, the woman I had built my life with, had willingly given it to him. I walked away from her then, out of the room, out of the house. I needed air, needed to think. I couldn't understand how they both could have done this to me. What was worse, they hadn't even had the decency to tell me. They had kept it a secret for months, behind my back, laughing at my naivety. The rage that boiled inside me was unlike anything I had ever felt before. I thought about everything we had built, the life we shared, the plans for the future. It was all a lie, built on false trust. And as much as I loved Angela, I knew that I couldn't just walk away from this and pretend nothing had happened. I couldn't let them get away with destroying my life. That's when I decided that I would make sure their reputations were shattered, just as they had shattered mine. I began to plot, not just out of anger but out of a deep sense of justice. They had violated my trust, and I wouldn't let them get away with it. I knew that Jack's career was on the rise. He had always been a charismatic guy, well-liked, respected in his field. He had built an image of someone dependable, someone loyal. But I knew the truth. I knew what kind of man he really was. I started by contacting people who were close to Jack's professional life. I sent anonymous emails to his colleagues, hinting at his unprofessional behavior. I didn't go into the specifics of the affair, but I painted a picture of a man who couldn't be trusted, who was more concerned with his own pleasures than his commitments. I knew the whispers would spread, that his reputation would begin to crack under the pressure. Jack was a rising star, and the last thing anyone wanted was to be associated with a man whose personal life was so messy. It wasn't long before rumors about his behavior began to surface, affecting his relationships with clients and colleagues. Then, I turned my attention to Angela. She wasn't immune to the consequences of her actions. I had always been proud of the reputation I had worked so hard to build, and I knew Angela had too. She had always been the picture of grace, of success. She was well known in her social circles and had a high-status job. But I knew how to take it all away. I started leaking information to her friends, small details about her affair with Jack. I didn't just stop there. I began to send messages to her coworkers, subtly suggesting that she was untrustworthy, that her personal life was a mess, and that she wasn't the reliable professional they thought she was. Soon enough, the whispers about her spread. And her carefully crafted image began to crumble. At first, it felt good. Sweet, even. I reveled in the thought of them paying the price for what they had done to me. But as time went on, a sense of emptiness settled in. I had ruined their lives, yes, but I had also ruined a part of myself in the process. What had I gained? Revenge? Justice? Maybe. But in the end, I was still left with the broken pieces of my life, and no amount of ruined reputations could fill the void. Eventually, Jack confronted me. He came to my office one afternoon, full of bravado. He demanded to know why I was doing this to him. His eyes were angry, but also desperate. He had always thought of me as a friend. And here I was, destroying his career over a mistake over an affair that, in his mind, wasn't worth the consequences. "You've got to be kidding me, man," Jack said, his voice low. "We're both adults. You're acting like this is the end of the world." I stared at him, cold and unfeeling. "You destroyed my world, Jack. You and Angela. So now, I'm making sure the world knows who you really are." His expression faltered. I could see the guilt and the realization setting in. He had never thought that I would retaliate this way, that the betrayal would come back to haunt him. But it did. And as much as he tried to play the victim, there was no escaping the consequences of his actions. Angela didn't speak to me after that. She tried to reach out, to apologize, but I had no interest in listening. The trust was gone. The love was gone. What we had was no longer a foundation I could build on. In the end, I realized something important: revenge, no matter how sweet, never brings peace. I had ruined their lives, but in doing so, I had ruined a part of my own humanity. The anger that had consumed me left me hollow. I couldn't take back the things I had done, but I also couldn't go back to the person I was before the betrayal. I was left with a life that no longer resembled the dream I had once held. Angela was gone, and Jack was a shadow of the friend I had once known. But I was still here, learning, growing, and realizing that sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't just from others, it's from ourselves when we lose sight of who we are. And so, I walked away. Not just from them, but from the person I had been. The person driven by anger. By revenge. It was time to rebuild, but this time, not on a foundation of lies, but on something stronger, on the truth of who I wanted to be. And that was a journey I would take alone.